Daily podcast. Happy Tuesday, y'all. Today we are bringing you your weekly market report. Dan and I recorded this episode early this morning, so it is fully up to date for you guys and very on time for what is happening in the cattle markets right now. Today we are talking fats, talking feeders, talking kill cow markets, and then we touch on something that no one really wants to talk about right now, and that is the export markets at the very end of the episode. So we talk about all the highs, all the lows, everything that we're seeing right now, our opinions on all of that as always. So let's go ahead and without further ado, get into this episode with Dan.
Now we can start the podcast.
Now we're ready to rock and roll.
Yep, I thought you'd get a kick out of that. It's golf day, so.
I love it. I love it. No, I know exactly what shirt you're wearing.
You have that one?
I've seen those. I do not have that one, but I've seen the ads for them. So.
Okay, yeah, pretty awesome.
Yes.
I got some new shirts on order, so it's going to get fun, but they're not in yet.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait. It's going to be a fashion show every single week.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
Let's
exactly
go.
what I'm here for. Feeling better. Glad to see you're feeling better.
Yes, me too. I'm glad to be alive and functioning again. I don't know what the hell that was. The doctors don't know what it was, but it sucked nonetheless. So, don't wish that on anyone. I was so sick, and then I had to travel for, I think it was 12 hours the next day I was in the car. That was not fun for anyone.
That sucks.
But you know, we're here. I feel better. I did go on a walk this morning, and I was like, my lungs hurt a little bit more than maybe they should from walking, but you know, it's fine. It's fine. We're on the mend. I can at least function.
Glad it wasn't the screwworm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Where do we go from there?
I don't even know where to go from there. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The screwworm is fun. I'm glad it wasn't screwworm. Last time we talked, you and I were all worried it was screwworm that we were getting here in the States, which I'm still not convinced that it's not here, but like, that's neither here nor there. You know, everyone's entitled to their own opinions on things, but yeah, the markets definitely responded, and then they responded again, and then it's been a wild couple weeks, so I feel like we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And everything that's happened.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think today we caught a new rumor. ICE raiding a packing plant.
Yes.
Caused the market to drop and then came right back. This market does not want to die, which is good.
No, it doesn't.
I'm glad. Fun time trading if you're on the right side of it. It's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Getting on the right side can be a struggle for some, but yeah, we're having fun. So now between the screwworm rumor, then we had a packing plant closure rumor, and that one we reversed within the same day. And then today's ICE raid. I'm wondering what next week's rumor is going to be.
Do they just have like the Wheel of Fortune wheel, and they're just like spinning it, and it's just some on there are like those $1 million just outlandish things, and I feel like we're on the verge of, you know, hitting some of those every once in a while. So what's the Wheel of Fortune going to say next week for us? That's how it's going to be, right?
Good question. Throw something crazy out there, it might stick. Yep. No, crazy times. Shoot, all-time record high fat cattle prices last week. I mean, across the country, our average ended up at just shy of 240. So that's pretty pumped about that. That's a big number. Obviously, feeders are following right along. Shoot, there's 8 weights bringing 320, 330. 9 weights at $3 to $3.10. It's just a lot of money. We're playing with a lot of money. And speaking of money, I just got looking today. I had to look up the rate of inflation, okay? So if you go back to 1965, the price of fat cattle was ballpark 23 cents a hundredweight. Or, sorry, 23 cents a pound, $23 a hundredweight. According to the government, since that time, our average rate of inflation has been 3.8 to 3.9. If you run that against that $23 a hundredweight in that 60-year period, fat cattle are worth $240, roughly. I found that awfully interesting, given we're trading $240 fat cattle, either side of it.
Yeah.
Kind of wild, right?
That's crazy.
Now, does that mean that we should all make the assumption cattle prices are here to stay at this level? Absolutely not. Because there was an awfully long period during that a lot of the time during that 60-year period where we traded well below the price of inflation. So I just perplexed. It's unreal how close that came in. Another number I had to look up, comparing all these numbers, was 1965, the average price of ground beef was 59 cents.
Wow.
Today they're claiming it's $5.80. So it's gone up in price, or the value of your dollar's gone drastically lower. At the same time, our herd numbers have dropped substantially, but in 1965, the average weight of a fat steer was 1,000 pounds, and today, we're talking 15, 16, 1,700 pound fat steers. So it's unreal. A lot of crazy stats I could throw out there, but sorry, didn't mean to go off on a tangent there.
I love it.
It's just wild times.
It is wild times. And that's really important though to, I still think, touch on and talk about too, because I think sometimes we get so narrow-minded and visioned on what we're dealing with right now. And sometimes it's nice to look at the bigger picture and be like, hey, since the 60s, this is what we've been seeing. And here's the numbers. And we're actually trending kind of like where we're supposed to be right now, along the rate of inflation and everything that goes along with that. So no, it's interesting to hear about for sure.
Yeah. That's more long-term numbers. A more short-term number. Last year compared to last week, I was selling 1,500 pound fat steers for $2,800 a head. Now we're buying yearling steers to replace those cattle at $2,800 a head.
Yeah.
Do we see any risk in that, right?
None at all. None
at
at
all. There's just
crazy.
Every day a new stat comes at me and I'm just, yep.
It's a wild day to be in the cattle market.
It is.
It's a wild year to be in the cattle market. Dan and I were talking, gosh, when was it? A few weeks ago. We were like, this is going to be one of those years that ag econ kids are going to have in their history books, and they're going to have to run reports on this and write papers on this year for the economy in ag and markets and everything. And God, I pray for those kids, because it's been a hell of a confusing year.
Yeah. Just unreal.
Yeah.
Just sit back and try and figure out what they're going to do with interest rates. That's a big factor when it comes to cattle, grain, all of it, overall economy. I look at inflation and where it's at compared to where it was, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Looking at that chart, we should be raising interest rates right now. Looking at other charts and other numbers, I kind of hope that they lower them pretty soon, or we might be in for some trouble. But nonetheless, domestic demand, given the price levels we're at right now, is absolutely unbelievable. If we had a larger supply of beef, I would highly doubt we're at these price levels. But given the fact that our supply is lower than it was last year, consumers are still going through it. I love it. Bring out that beef month. Beef month's over, but who cares? It's beef for life. But
exactly.
It's good to see. Americans are figuring out it's the healthiest product to eat. I'm glad that the ranchers finally getting to profit off.
Yeah. At the end of the day, taste is still king. I'm going to steal the Beef Checkoff slogan on that beef is still king and flavor is king on that. People are still purchasing for the taste of beef, and we're grateful for it. We're very grateful for it, and continuing that demand as we go through for our consumer population, I think, is so vital for these volatile markets and everything like that. As far as markets go, what are we seeing? We saw obviously a scare this morning with just the rumor mill. And I think that goes into absolutely the fact of how volatile these markets are and how one news report can make people absolutely pull and go running for the hill. But it recovered quickly. So what's happening in the markets right now, Dan?
Yeah, one small packing plant got quote unquote possibly raided, and we took $2 out of fat cattle. That, like you said, that goes to show how tipsy this thing is, how volatile it is. Overall, like I mentioned, feeders are just absolutely on fire. I've been pushing coverage since and before $3. 300. It seems high, right? We've gone over why this, that, but the market just doesn't give up. Fat cattle, depending if we're talking cash or the board, Like right now, I'm very, very concerned about the board. The last 2 days of trading, we've seen a lot of open interest drop, more than 20,000 contracts. So, historically speaking, 400,000 contracts in the fat cattle market is a lot. That's usually where we, see a peak out right around that number. So then your traders start taking profit and the market slides back and has a correction. We got over 400,000, I think went to 416,000. And from Friday and Monday, we dropped more than 20,000 contracts in a higher market. So typically that would lead you to believe shorts are blowing out of their positions. Not a good sign for a healthy market. So definitely concerned when it comes to futures. When I look at the cash market, how do you get bearish? I mean, the feed yards have the leverage. They know they do. Even though kill numbers are down and possibly going to drop more. There's new plants coming online. You brought North Platte online. I believe St. Louis is online. There's a couple still coming down the pipe later. How do you get bearish? These numbers only get tighter. We can all drive around, going on vacations, going on work trips, and see all the empty feed yards, empty pens, custom yards, begging on social media to get filled up, dropping yardage rate. I've seen it all. The numbers aren't there. At the same time, we're seeing the weights drop. If you see slaughter numbers drop and you see weights fall at the same time, there is not a larger sign that says we're current than that right there. So we're into the calf slaughter already. The weights are dropping. The gradings are dropping. We're slaughtering last year's calf crop. Okay, so what is there to get bearish about? As far as cash is concerned, as long as the feed yards in a concerted effort continue to work together, they could drive fat cattle price much higher. These packers have these formulas. They're booked on meat. The consumer's still going to the grocery store. They don't have a choice but to kill cattle and lose money. Do I like it that they lose money? Verdict's out. No, I don't. I want them to make money so they keep the doors open, but I also want them to have tight margins so that the actual producer is getting a larger portion of that consumer's checkbook. They're losing, call it 140 to 200 bucks a head, depending on the packer. I don't like that. It puts me on edge. Will we drop a plant? Who's going to go dark first? My money would normally be on a southern plant with their numbers getting tighter because of the border. When that happens is anybody's game. But as of right now, other than the volatility, the cash market other than the volatility in the futures market, cash seems to want to go higher. So full steam ahead. Don't step on the tracks when the train's coming through, Lauren.
Oh, yeah. I will be staying far away from those tracks. That's for damn sure. We'll tell you all about it, but you will not catch me anywhere near those tracks when that train does inevitably come barreling through. So any other highs, lows in the markets? How are kill cow markets? How's everything else looking outside of fats and feeders right now?
Yeah, absolutely. That's another good indicator. I was told a long time ago, watch that kill cow market. If that starts to drop, your fats might get in trouble. That's through the roof too. I mean,
hell yeah.
Look at the choice select spread. People are switching a little bit to that select meat, more burger. It's also seasonal. The deeper you go into summer, you start seeing more burgers and brats and less steaks.
Yep.
But nonetheless, there's not a lot of cows to kill out there because the dairies didn't retain enough heifers. The beef cow herd, they're holding on to the old cow, trying to get one more calf out of her. We just don't have the cows to kill. These markets are strong. Why would they pound cows? I don't see that changing. Typically, you don't see, cow slaughter ramp up until the fall when people are preg checking. So same thing with pound bulls. They're sky high, 210, 215 for a fat fed bull. This is just nuts. I mean, a lot of these guys pounding bulls out right now are getting more for them than what they bought them as yearling bulls for to turn out and breed with. It's just how many firsts can you see in this market?
It's crazy when you can take a purebred, great quality bull just to the sale barn and get just as much for him as you would going and selling in private treaty these days. Like it's craziness out there right now. And I think that it just really speaks to, we can sit here and we can talk about the markets all day and we can try and predict this and try and predict that and rub our crystal ball and talk real sweet to it. But at the end of the day, none of us saw this coming.
No.
I don't think we could sit here and say that we ABCD we knew this was going to happen and this is how it was going to go.
It truly goes back to the consumer. Demand is just rock solid. I've mentioned the carnivore diet, I've mentioned the keto diet, but when people are eating this much, great healthy protein, whether it's beef, pork, chicken, even the pork cutout's been on a tear lately. They probably have cattle producers to thank for that, but nonetheless, pork's gone up in price as well. So that should continue into the 1st of August. So, honestly, the way the cattle market's current in the feed yards and the way pork and beef are right now, like I say, I'm not overly worried about cash just yet. I don't see a wall of cattle coming.
How are the international markets and box beef prices and all of those looking right now?
Oh, do you want to talk about depressing stuff? We don't need to talk about the export markets, okay?
We have talked about so many great things for 17 minutes. I think people can hear one negative thing from us for
all right.
2 minutes.
Exports suck. Enough
Exports
said.
do suck.
Yep. And they're going to.
Just a bit they suck.
They're going to. I mean, I think last week's export number, what did that come in at? Like 9,000 metric tons.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Not even really worth mentioning. They suck, and they're going to. I mean, you have a 110 hog cutout. You have 360 knocking on 370 choice boxes. I mean, we all know that America is known for shipping or exporting our best high quality beef, right? That's what they come here for. They're not coming for lean beef. When you put the prices up that high, you're going to cause some demand destruction. Fortunately, and this is the way I would prefer it, to be honest with you, I would rather keep that demand at home, keep the American consumer eating it, and not be reliant upon those exports. Now, when the price slips, I hope those exports, and they should come back and help level off the prices so we don't have these huge mountaintops and valleys in demand. But nonetheless, you're not going to get that major export business coming in here. And with these prices, plain and simple. China, they've been a decent beef buyer in the last 3 years, and they're not buying anything. And I'm not surprised. They're value shoppers, and beef is not on sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you can go to one of our foreign partners and that is high in beef production and get it for half the price than what we're selling it right now, I can't blame them. If we're speaking economically, it's just a smart move on their parts. And I do agree with you in the sentiment that I would rather keep a lot of it here, but they have always said that we export the great and we import the shit. Like the things that we're going to put in the dog food, the things we're going to put in the McDonald's beef burgers, stuff like that, to continue to cycle that production. And so I think there's an important balance that we need to play of still exporting so we can continue to import some lower quality beef cuts, but then at the same time, we do want the American consumer eating American beef. We don't want them eating Brazilian beef or beef from other countries when we have it right here and we can provide it still at that demand, at that price that we're able to do right now in the markets.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, 384 million people in this country should have no problem eating all the beef grown in this country. Let's keep it that way.
1,000%. Any other highs, lows, things to watch out for the rest of the week? Anything else you're putting your finger on the pulse on? Anything else?
Kind of nervous watching this grain market. It's not trading the best. I'd like to see it bounce here. I mentioned a couple weeks ago how I'm a buyer, and the lower it goes, the more I'm going to be a buyer. It's not trading the best. I think we settled today off of our lows, and yeah, we did. So we might see a bounce over the next couple days, but some of the patterns on the charts are not looking healthy. We might see some more down before this thing really builds a base. Hopefully that happens and the farmer can get a little relief. If you're a feed buyer, it's not a bad time, once again, to get some more of your corn needs booked. Also, like meal, soybean crop should be drastically smaller this year with fewer acres, and not even talking about potential weather, but like buying soybean meal down here, 300. All I can say is give us a call, talk through it.
Yeah. Absolutely. As far as LRP rates go, what are those looking like right now? Take a minute to discuss what insurance looks like right now.
Here recently in the last couple weeks with that volatility on all the rumors, the prices have gone up a little bit. Not going to lie. At the same time, I look at the insurance rate when I'm comparing the dollars I'm insuring in total, compared to what I'm paying in premium, and it's still super, super cheap. You know, you're talking about a 2.5% insurance rate. If you go look up your house insurance or your pickup insurance, those are 3% or more. So long story short, get out here, get some floors set, and then just sit back, go to sleep. You know, don't worry about what the markets are going to do, because as volatile as this thing is, you know, a 10% correction in the feeder cattle market anymore, you're talking about $30 a hundredweight. Folks, that's $240 a head on an 8-weight steer. Just, once again, huge numbers, just unfathomable numbers. So you know, it's just interesting. We got up to that $300 mark and everybody started plowing into the LRPs, and then we got above it and it slowed down. Then the market pulled back and crashed, and everybody's like, oh, freaking out. And now it's back up, and we're setting a brand new all-time record high today. Let's add to your coverage as the market goes higher. That way you don't have to panic buy LRP on the down days. So
Absolutely. Let yourself be able to sleep at night.
Plain and simple.
End of story.
Yep.
Plain and simple.
That's all it takes.
It's a stressful time to be in the cattle industry right now. It's a great time, but it's also a stressful time because of how volatile everything is. And so it's one of those situations that, you know what, allow yourself to kick back in the evenings, go to sleep at night, and not have to worry if you're even going to be able to break even this year. And just keep yourself covered, because it's one of those things that you'd rather have it and not need it than not have it. And like you just said, Dan, be scrambling when they're down and be stuck in a tough situation. So on that note, make sure you go check out our show notes. We do have that exclusive Cattle USA insurance link where we partner with Logic Ag Marketing for you guys, where you can go check that out, get those current LRP rates, get a hold of Dan's team and everyone over there to get yourself covered, be able to sleep at night, and do all of the things in between. We also have both of our newsletter links down below. So we've got Dan's newsletter link and we've got our newsletter link. If you want some humor, go to Dan's. If you want daily, a little bit of everything, come running over to ours. They're both great. Make sure you check those out, and just like, subscribe, rate, review, do all the things. We really appreciate it here at the team. And as always, we'll see you all tomorrow on another episode. Have a good one, y'all.